So I've been a journalist for about 20 years and I've been in Westminster for around 15. I've covered 4 general elections, I think. I've covered 3 US presidential elections. I spent a bit of time over there doing Barack Obama's first election, so I've got that experience of American politics as well. And I've been at the Sunday Times as their political editor for the last 3 years. So when I wrote my book, All Out War, on the kerfuffle around the referendum and the leadership crisis that followed, I learned a lot of things, one of which is that if you're a Prime Minister and you don't have a plan, it's very difficult to achieve your goals. David Cameron set off wanting to hold a referendum but not really knowing how he was going to win the thing, always assumed he was going to be fine, and then the whole thing went pear-shaped. The other thing that I learned was that it's very difficult to trust politicians. I was writing this book just 5 or 6 weeks, in some cases after the events I was describing, and hardly anybody could agree on precisely what had happened. So I do several different sorts of speaking performances. I can chair panels for you, I can do a quick breakfast with a quick introduction on the events in politics and then take questions, or I can do you a full 30-minute after dinner speech. At the moment I tend to concentrate on Brexit and the events in my book and the election of Donald Trump and what that means for the world. There's quite a lot of parallels between the two. There's a lot of fun stories you can tell. So that's what I tend to concentrate on, but obviously I can tailor it to the client. And what I try to do is give a light-hearted but insightful view of what's going on in Westminster. I know all the personalities, I can tell you what they're really like, I can tell you off the record what they're like behind the scenes, and I hope people take away from that a little bit of insight and perhaps a little bit of humour as well. Well, one of the personalities I like to talk about is Boris Johnson, who's probably the most interesting British politician at the moment. One of the things I revealed in my book was that Boris had written 2 different articles, one arguing for Remain and one for Leave, and we published that article in the Sunday Times, and Boris dropped me a note afterwards saying, "Well done, shippers, lots of love, Boris, F off." Now I'm fairly sure that stood for Foreign Office. How the press and the media interact is one of those time-honoured questions that journalists always get asked. Enoch Powell had a phrase. He said that politicians complaining about the press is like sailors complaining about the sea, and it's a bit like that. You have this kind of relationship where you both need each other. Somebody else described it as the dog and the lamppost, but who is the dog and who is the lamppost tends to change from week to week. My predictions for 2017 are that it's really stupid to make predictions after what we've seen over the last couple of years. Any journalist who tells you what's going to happen is a madman, but I think what we can say is that based on the last couple of years, the whole thing is going to be slightly chaotic. Theresa May is going to have to draw a line in the sand, tell everybody what she wants, and at the moment she does that, she's going to have people to the left of her and people to the right, armed to the teeth with knives and cannons, firing at her, because it's not a case of she won't be able to satisfy everybody. I think we'll find out that she can't satisfy anybody. Well, I've got to try and keep holding this government to account as political editor of the Sunday Times and try and reveal what Theresa May is really thinking, if she knows herself. I'm working on another book, which will, the details of which will be revealed at some point quite soon. And I'm keen to make more speeches and continue, bringing my insight from Westminster to people in the wider world.